Switch it up, put the hip shit on the shelf. Cause the way the real wealth is being real with self. My eyes done seen the glory of the coming of the left. I can't do it by myself, so I'm asking for help. It's time to switch it up, put the hip shit on the shelf. Cause the way the real wealth is being real with self. My eyes done seen the glory of the coming of the left. I can't do it by myself, so I'm asking for help.
Money, money, money. That's all he talks
There's
about.
nothing wrong with being wealthy. Like Kanye West says, having money is not everything, but not having it is. No, Deuteronomy 8:18 says God gives us the ability to create wealth.
Money is the root to all.
No, it's the love of money that's the root of all evil.
I like money. Oh, kid.
Yes, I do think about other things than money. I'm just trying to leave a legacy for my family. Money's not everything, but when you got it, you can do some cool stuff. And now, your host for Talking Money in the Morning, financial health mentor to the working class, Mr. H. Cortez. Good morning, and welcome to Talking Money in the Morning Live with your main man, H. Cortez, the one and only financial health mentor to the black community. Everybody's favorite fatherpreneur, where I do my absolute best to bring practical, proven wealth building strategies to working men and women all over this great nation of ours. It is truly an honor, privilege, and a blessing to come to you live and direct from the Black Wealth Movement Studios here in St. Louis, Missouri. If you have not jumped on the Black Wealth Movement train this morning, you are missing out. What is the Black Wealth Movement all about? The Black Wealth Movement is a network of men and women that have dedicated their lives to bringing financial education to the black community for the purposes of community development and economic empowerment. You cannot develop a community without capital, and you cannot empower a community unless you first empower the people of that community, and all empowerment begins with education. And for us, the one education that we're lacking more than anything is a financial education. So I'm looking to recruit about 50 soldiers into this army of bringing financial education to our community. It's a $35 a month commitment, but guess what? As my way of saying this is a pressing matter, I'm going to pay your first month's fee so you join at no upfront cost. I'm going to pay it forward for you to get rolling with us. We're going to teach you how to minimize taxes, eliminate debt, fix your credit, how to invest, and we're going to put that in a financial education franchise so that you can get compensated for teaching people these strategies as well. So that's what the Black Wealth Movement is, and we are growing and exploding across the country, but we need more. As a good book says, the harvest is plentiful. There are lots and lots of people looking for a way out financially. There's not enough people to bring them what it is that we do to help them out. They're all doing it their own way, and a lot of them are not doing it the most efficient way. So we want to show people an efficient strategy to build real wealth so they can start creating legacies for their family. So we're looking for 50 people. If 50 people raise their hand right now, I'm going to pay it forward for 50 people to help us in this movement. The only caveat is you got to be stateside. You got to have an SSN from the state. So you got to be a citizen to make this work. But don't worry, because it won't. We're about 12 months away from a global strategy for building wealth globally. So if that's you and you want to join this movement, simply text the word Black Wealth Movement to 314-874-6887 or inbox me and I'll get you some additional information. Now, do me a huge favor. If you're checking this out on Periscope, go ahead and invite your followers to come check us out. If you're checking this out on YouTube, hit subscribe if you haven't already subscribed to the channel. Thank each and every one of you guys, because we are well over the 1,000 subscriber mark, so I appreciate that. But go ahead and copy the link to today's show and share it on your favorite social media timeline, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you like to share links. Share the link to today's show, man. There's a lot of people looking to figure out how to break the poverty consciousness, poverty mindset, and we're going to talk about that today. And for you guys on Facebook, do the same thing, man. If you haven't already shared the stream, I appreciate it if you will do so. And then if you could remind me about mid-show to ask people to share the show stream again, because people were jumping on at different times, I would appreciate that. And also, the hearts and the likes and the comments and all of that kind of stuff matters in the world of Facebook. It lets Facebook know that we have an important show, that we have good content That way, when we go live every morning, they will push it out to more and more people based on the engagement that today's show got. So don't be afraid to comment, give us your 2 cents, like, share, and all that good stuff. It really means something, guys. It helps us get the show into more and more people. Now, for those of you who are new and may have never checked out Talking Money in the Morning Live, I'd like to let you know exactly what you're in for, who this show is for. This show is for risers and grinders only, man. If you're ready to get up, get out, and get something, this is your show. This show is for legacy builders. We are the type of people around here that before we go to sleep at night, we're thinking what we're going to do the next day, the next month, the next week, the next 10 years, the next 5 years to make sure that our children's children will be proud to bear our names. If you're working for your last name and not your first, this is your show. On the other hand, who is the show not for? The show is not for that eternal pessimist. We all know those people who got a problem for every solution. This ain't your show, man. This ain't your show. You can exit stage left. We all know people who've got that weird relationship with money where they think money is evil. They think capitalism is a dirty word. They think all wealthy people are snobs. Well, guess what? Everybody on this stream is wealthy. So if that's how you feel about us, get off my stream. Because we're here to build wealth and we're here to do some major things and make some major moves. And yes, it takes a major commitment, and those who follow this show, that's what they're here for, to learn, to grow, and to develop, and to take their personal finances to another level so that when their cup runneth over, the excess flows into our community and we can start rebuilding our community. All right. And for those of you who don't know, and I'll tell you each and every morning, if you've never seen a future billionaire before, then I want you to take a screenshot. And watch me work, man, because 2027 is going down. Yes, I'm not only bold enough to proclaim that I'm a billionaire, but I'm also putting a date on that thing. Because if you don't put a date on your goals, then they're just fantasies and wishes. So, yes, you're looking at a future billionaire, but guess what? There's not a single billionaire on this planet that has ever gotten there without helping to produce and create other billionaires. Mega millionaires, deca millionaires, 6-figure earners. So ride this wave, jump on board with the Black Wealth Movement, and we're going to help create as many independently wealthy people as we absolutely can. All right, so today we're talking about poverty consciousness, right? What is poverty consciousness, right? Poverty consciousness is the thought process and the ideologies of everything and that we are internally that manifests itself externally. It's all of those things, and for a lot of people, too many of us, we do things in a way that will only lead to poverty. I'm gonna say that again. For too many of us, the things that we think, the way that we act, the people we associate, the things that we do on a regular and consistent basis, we do things that will only lead us to poverty. And that's the issue. So our conscious mind, our conscious and our subconscious mind is built in a way, crafted in a way that every move that we make, every step that we take, those moves and those steps can only lead us to poverty. So we want to break some of those yokes this morning. I'm going to tell you there is but one way to overcome poverty consciousness. You start the process, and here's how you do it. You guys ready? This is just one solution today. And we're going to talk about some of the things that you question, but it's one solution. In order to break the poverty consciousness, you literally have to question everything. To break the poverty consciousness, you have to question everything. What do I mean question everything? I mean just that. Question everything. Every word that comes out of your mouth, you have to question that. Where did that come from? Why did I say it that way? Why? What is that? Right? And then when you question it, you ask yourself, is speaking like this going to lead me to poverty or to wealth? See, I put a video up yesterday of some of the clip. Obviously, Jay-Z has a documentary going on where he's teaching, or he's talking behind the scenes with some celebrities like Chris Rock and others about, you know, the mindset behind the OJ song, right? And they're just talking about where we are as a people and how you can kind of get so much success to where you forget that you're black. And he's breaking that down, and I was appalled at some of the comments that I was getting because everybody has an opinion about whether Jay-Z is authentic with trying to wake us up with some of his recent lyrics, whether he is just taking advantage of a situation or whatever the case is, man. But one of the things that you have to do, or the first thing that you have to do if you're going to break the poverty consciousness, you have to question everything. And one of the gentlemen in that piece, what he said is we have to keep in mind that yes, slavery officially ended 150 years ago. But when slavery ended, we also ended up in another succession of traumas that led us to where we are. And he said something that was very profound to me. He said, think about the fact that when the slaves were initially freed, those freed slaves were raised by former slaves. Those freed slaves, that first generation, raised their children the same way that they were raised by former slaves. And then their children raised their children the same way that they were raised by their parents, who were raised by the parents who were former slaves. So there's a lot of stuff that is deeply entrenched into us, the way that we behave, the way that we act, the way that we speak, the way that we think, that can only lead to poverty. And if we don't break that, then we will never get over this cycle. And then on the other hand, he said the other thing you have to think about is that when slavery ended, those former slave owners, they had children, and they raised them with the mindset of a slave owner. And those slave owners, that first generation of slave owners' children, they had children, and they raised their children with the mindset of their former slave owning parents or grandparents. And when they had children, they raised their children with the same ideologies as their parents who had grandparents who were former slave owners. So do you see the dichotomy that we have to deal with? And that's why racism exists in the capacity that it exists with, because the children of slaves have been raised and conditioned to continue to think like slaves, and the children of slave owners have been raised and conditioned to continue to think like slave owners. And until you question everything and you break down yourself, not nobody else, you break down yourself and you get to the core of who you are and where your thought processes come from and why you have poverty consciousness, you will never, ever break that. And as much as you tell your children to go get a job, to go get a business, as much as you tell your children you want to be owners of everything, you will be saying that with your mouth while at the same time demonstrating to them slave-like behavior. Unless you question everything, man. It does absolutely no good to tell your children that they need to be owners and not consumers, that they need to be producers and not consumers, when you yourself are exhibiting and modeling for them slave-like behavior. Because one thing you got to know about children is they pick up more than they are actually taught. They pick up far more than they are actually taught. So if you're telling them with your mouth, you don't want a job, you want to have a business, but you get up and go to work every day, you are modeling to them slave-like behavior while you're trying to teach them how to be free. Don't work like that, y'all. So in order for you to break poverty consciousness, you have to literally question everything that you are. And I know we love our parents. We love our grandparents. We love our great-grandparents. We love our ancestry. We love our history. We love it, love it, love it. But a lot of things they taught us from the position that they were in when they taught us and passed those things down were dead wrong if we are seeking full, utter, and total liberation. If we are seeking a full sense of freedom and 100% independence, a lot of the things that we were taught and that we have brought with us through the generations work in a counterproductive manner to get us the things that we say we want. That's why in order to break poverty consciousness, overcome poverty consciousness, you literally have to question everything. I question every single thought that pops into my head. Why? Because I know there's a such thing as programming. I know even as I study and I try to take myself down a certain road, there are certain thought processes and certain influences in me that causes me to think a certain way. And those things can only lead to poverty. So you got to question everything about you. Not nobody else, man. Don't look at the next man and question why he thinks the way he thinks. No, you question you. You take a step, ask yourself, why the heck did I just take that step? And is that step going to lead me to poverty, or is that step going to lead me to wealth? You have a thought. Ask yourself, where the heck did that thought come from? Is that thought process, if I continue that train of thinking, is that going to lead me to poverty, or is that going to lead me to wealth? Question everything about you. It's time to stop looking to the left and looking to the right and start paying complete attention to what it is that you're doing. And that's how you break the poverty consciousness. Our ancestors meant us well when they taught us not to look a white man in the eye. Right? They were trying to protect us because at that time, looking a white man in the eye would get us killed. But I'm here to tell you today, if you're not willing to look your enemy in the eye, you will always be submissive to that enemy. So do we hate and discount our forefathers and our ancestors for teaching us incorrectly? It wasn't incorrect at the time. It was a life-saving gesture. But we have to reevaluate as we go through this process of evolution and determine whether the things that generate my day-to-day habits, whether those things will lead me to poverty or lead me to wealth. We talked about, we coined the term blackophobia on this show, right? There was a time where we couldn't be too successful because being too successful would get us killed. But now we're in a place in our evolution that we have to be willing to die for that level of success, because that's the only way we're going to bring our people forward. So when I say question everything, then you need to start off with questioning the actions that you're taking. Are the actions that you're taking leading you to poverty or leading you to wealth? My man Evan Jefferson has just put out a book, The Black Billionaires Club, and he's going over the 12 black billionaires in the world, and he's studied and giving us his cliff notes on what they did to gain their wealth. So when you start to question your actions, wealthy people don't sleep their lives away. Meaning they're up early. Right? Sometimes they have to stay up late. And you have to ask yourself, if I'm sleeping my life away, is that going to lead me to poverty or is that going to lead me to wealth? Wealthy people are on an eternal quest for knowledge. And you have to ask yourself, when knowledge is put before you, do you soak it up or do you run from it, or do you not have time to receive knowledge? Do you not go after learning new things on a regular and consistent basis? Because when you question that, and you answer that truthfully, and you study wealthy people, you will see that if wealthy people are always on an eternal quest for knowledge, and my current disposition has me rejecting knowledge at every turn, are my actions going to lead me to poverty or will they lead me to wealth? We know by watching other people that their actions have led them to wealth. So every action has an effect. So my lack of action, my lack of acquiring knowledge, that's going to lead me where? To poverty. Are you willing to question everything that you are and reconstruct yourself from the ground up? Because we literally have to question a lot of the things that were put into us by the very people that we love. And that don't mean they didn't love us. That just means they were at a stage in evolution where they were trying their best to give us the best without getting us killed. Don't mean they don't love us, right? I bet matter of fact, I want you to think about something. Now that we understand that we have to start questioning ourselves, I want you to type in the comments, give me something that you have told your children early on in your development as a parent that you know right now is dead wrong and you would not teach your next child that same thing. Type in the comments something that you've said to your child that you know now after you have evolved as a person that probably wasn't a good way to teach them. Right? Everybody has that. So we can't get mad that our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, and our ancestors had that and they put some things into us that do not serve us today. They put some things into us, not because they didn't love us, but because of where they were in their stage of evolution. And some of those things are not serving us today, and some of those things are leading us to poverty. Point blank, period. So question your actions. If you're going to question your actions, then you have to question your thought process. Where do your thoughts come from? Where do your thoughts come from? Because we have a poverty mindset that is deeply entrenched into our subconscious, which creates our conscious thoughts. And those conscious thoughts create our words. Those words create our actions, and our actions are leading us to poverty. Did y'all get that? Because of some things that happened in our life when we were young, because of some things that we were taught when we were young, some ideologies that were placed in us, they have been deeply entrenched into our subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind creates conscious thoughts. Our conscious thoughts become the words that we speak. Those words become actions. Those actions become habits. And we have habits today that are leading us to poverty. So you got to question everything, right? if you're going to question how you think, what precipitates your thoughts? If you're going to question how you think, what precipitates your thoughts? It's your beliefs. Now you got to go all the way back to question how you believe and where that belief system came from. And what is coming out of that belief system? Is that belief system causing you to have the right thoughts, words, actions, habits that will lead you to wealth? Or is that belief system causing you to have thoughts, words, actions, and habits that are leading you to poverty? Right? Go to school, college is important. It's something I think was wrong for telling my children that. I talk about that a lot, Ramen. I talk about that a lot. And and if you're going to send your kids to college, here's my new thought process. Now I have a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old, and I have one that is in college. But my reason for sending them to college is not to get a certificate that will help them get a job. My reason for sending them to college is to help them make international connections so that when they come back to work for the family business, some of those connections will be more valuable than that piece of paper. Right? My purpose for sending my kids to college is more entrenched in getting them that world experience that they're going to need, not so much for the piece of paper, because I'm an entrepreneur. My children will be entrepreneurs. They're going to come and create their own businesses or help me run the family business. So they're not going to get certified to go get a job for somebody else. Other thing you have to think about, if you're sending your kids to college, make sure that they're going to college to get a marketable skill. Make sure they're going to college to get a marketable skill that they can turn around and use to market in their community and uplift their community. There's some skills that you can go get a college degree in and you can't market that thing nowhere, especially in the urban centers. And we have so many of our kids going to get degrees in some of those fields that, yes, there are corporations that are looking for bioengineers. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are corporations that are looking for finance managers and things of that nature. But look at the number of corporations that there are that exist. And if you're going to college to get a degree in business finance, and there are 10,000 people or 100,000 college graduates graduating with that same degree in business finance, how many companies are there that exist that can hire 100,000 people to run their finances? So we have to think about what this world really is. They're telling you to go to school, get a job, and get a good education so you can get a good job. When we're looking at the fact that small businesses are responsible for creating all of the jobs. So why aren't we paying attention to exactly what's happening and say, wait a minute, you're telling my child to go to school to get a degree so they can get a job. And that's going to give them a leg up. But at the same time, you're telling everybody else's child to do the same thing. So when my kid comes out with his degree, everybody else has a degree. So now he has no leg up. I know dozens of people with master's degrees that are underemployed or not employed at all. Dozens. This is just me. I'm just one person that knows dozens of people with master's degrees that are underemployed or not employed at all. Right? Now imagine if you multiply the me's in the world how many other people also know dozens of people with master's degrees that are underemployed or not employed at all? Type in the chat if you got a master's degree or a bachelor's degree or higher and you're not working in your field and you struggle to find that job that when you looked at the curriculum and when you went to school, you looked at the curriculum and that curriculum said that if you get this degree, you will come out of school making X amount of dollars. X amount of dollars. When you went to school, you looked at everything. You said, hey, if I go and get this degree as an engineer, it says that I should come out of school making $50,000 a year. Okay, if I'm making $50,000 a year, it costs me $200,000 for this education. Yes, that justifies that over the next 10 years, I have a skill that I can get a job at, and I can use those skills and pay back $200,000 over 10 years if I'm making 50. But what they don't tell you is the number of people that are graduating with the exact same degree versus in contrast to the number of jobs that exist in that field. Hey guys, real quick, I promise I won't take you long to get you back to the show, but I just want you to know that I have a free copy for you of Monetize My Life, my way of saying thank you for supporting me and following this show and all the words of encouragement. So I want to give back to you a free download of Monetize My Life, because my mission in life is to empower people economically through entrepreneurship. So I wrote this little book to help you understand how to take the gifts, talents, and special abilities that God has blessed you with and turn them into profitable enterprises. So go over to financialhealthmentor.com/downloads and you can download this book for free, and hopefully it will help you uncover your passion, which will lead you to your purpose. And where your purpose is, there is your vision and also your provision. So thanks so much for all the support. Now let's get back to the show. So when you talk about marketable skills, I'm a big fan of the trades and things that you can do with your hand, because if I go get certified as an electrician, that will not only get me a job, but that can also become a business for me. That's a marketable skill that I don't have to go and beg somebody for a job. Somebody around here got some problems with the electricity, and I can help them. Somebody around here is about to expand and add a room, and they're going to need somebody to wire that room. That's a marketable skill that we can use in the Black community. And they're running our children away from trade schools, because trade schools will give our kids those marketable skills. Right? They will give our kids those marketable skills. Then our kids can take those marketable skills. See, we talk about this, and I'm gonna go on with the rest of what I have for today. But let me just say this: how did we get to a place where we don't have marketable skills today, when we ended slavery and we were the only ones with marketable skills? How did we get to the place today where we are the only community without any marketable skills, but when slavery ended, we were the only group of people that had marketable skills? Right? This is how systematic racism plays in. When slavery ended, we flooded the marketplace with master everything. See, we watch slave movies and they only show us the field slaves. But we were slaves at everything. We were slave carpenters. We were slave electricians. We were slave blacksmiths. We were slave plumbers. We were slave roofers. We were slave everything. We were slave bricklayers. We were slave everything. They only show us the field slaves. So when slavery ended, we had all of these skills. And how did they remove the marketable skill from the Black man and woman? We flooded the marketplace. A lot of us fled up north to get jobs. And they said, okay, we have this influx of highly skilled Black people. And the white people, for the first time in their lives, got together and said, wait a minute, In order for us to shut them out, they formed the whites only unions. And then all of the big organizations said, we cannot hire you because you're not a part of this union. And we said, okay, well, let's go sign up for the union. We went and signed up for the union. And they said, wait a minute, this union is whites only. Right? They said, okay, cool. I got you. Here's what we'll do. We can't get to the whites only union. We can't go get a job. Let's go create our own jobs. So we went and created our own jobs. We started using our marketable skills to build our own communities. And then you know what they said? They said, wait a minute. In order for you to practice that very thing that you are a master of, you have to be certified. Then the certification boards came in. Said, wait a minute, I've been a plumber my whole life. My dad was a plumber. His dad was a plumber. Nobody knows plumbing better than me. I'm sure that's right, Mr. Black Man Plumber. But in order for you to practice plumbing in this city, in this town, in this state, you have to pass this written certification test. And even though I was a master plumber, when slavery ended, I couldn't read. Even though I was a master plumber, I was a master electrician, I was a master brick mason, there's nothing you could tell me about how to lay a brick, how to build a structure. I was a structural engineer. Even though I was a master at those things, when they added the certification boards, now a master at his craft cannot practice his craft because I can't communicate what I know how to do at the very core of who I am in writing, because it was illegal for me to learn how to read. Are you kidding me? That's gangster stuff, man. That's what they were able to do. So then what that created in me is a sense of deflation. Because if I can't eat with the very thing that I am a master of, why then will I pass that down to my children? If I can't eat with the very skills that I have mastered, why then do I pass those skills down to my children? And that's how they broke the passing down of the trades, because if I'm a master electrician and my children are on the job with me from the time they're 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, by the time they're 10 years old, they're also master electricians. And guess what? They don't got to go to college or trade school to pay somebody to teach them how to do that. They already know how to do it. So when we talk about racism, we don't talk about, we get out of our feelings, right? See, they got us in our feelings because a white man says the N-word. Get out your feelings. That ain't racism. Racism is these institutions that have been set up to keep their foot on our neck. We're looking at the individual white person. Nah, man, they just like us. They trying to figure out how they can eat and all that. Do they benefit from systematic racism? Yeah. White privilege does exist. Yeah. But that's not our enemy. We got to look at these systems. So because I can't eat with the one skill that I've mastered, I don't pass that down to my children. Because I can't pass the test to get certified, and I can't pass the test because I can't read, what do? I then tell my child that it's most important for you to not learn this skill that has fed our family for generations, but you go learn to read, write, and do arithmetic. So instead of passing my child down a marketable skill, I send him to school so that he can be programmed to do what they want him to do. And then when you think about the school system and the integration of the school system, there was one reason that the school systems were integrated in the first place. It's because they couldn't figure out how we can put kids from all grades, from kindergarten to 12th grade, all in the same classroom, in a one-room shack, split 2 books, and we were still producing geniuses. But when they integrated the school system, they were able to tap in, to assess, and to look at, and to identify our genius, and then train our genius to be used for their communities and not our communities. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into where we are and how we got here. But I want you to understand that we have to start to reprogram ourselves. So in order to break poverty consciousness, you have to look at the things that you are doing with an honest and open heart and say, wait a minute, this thing that I'm doing and this thing that I do habitually, this thing that I do on autopilot is leading me to poverty. This thing that I do on autopilot, that's what a computer program does. It sends the computer on, and the computer does certain functions on autopilot. We have been programmed to do certain things on autopilot. And guess what those things that we do on autopilot do? They lead us to poverty. So you got to question everything, right? Now, when you question everything, a lot of us have tried to stop doing certain things that we know lead us to poverty. A lot of things have stopped doing certain things that we know lead us to poverty. But you have to be careful if you're going to just stop doing something cold turkey, because there's a scripture that I was just looking up this morning. It says, it's Matthew 12:44. It says, when an unclean spirit comes out of a man and it passes through arid places seeking a place for rest. An unclean spirit. So that poverty mindset, you recognize that, hey, if I'm sleeping my life away, that's not going to lead me to wealth. That's leading me to poverty. So I'm going to start getting up early every day. I'm just going to start getting up early every day. Right? But when that unclean spirit, that poverty mindset leaves you and it searches for a place to rest and can't find one, it comes back to you. And what does it find? It finds that, hey, you get up early, but you didn't replace it with anything that's going to lead you to wealth. So now you're just got this void, empty, clean space, and that unclean spirit comes back 7 times stronger, or with 7 of its buddies. And now you're worse off than you were. So you stopped doing the things that was leading you to poverty, but you didn't adopt a new habit to replace that would lead you to wealth. And as a result, that negative habit came back 7 times stronger. Because when it came back with others like the self-doubt. Because you start to say to yourself, man, I knew that getting up early wasn't going to help me, wasn't going to change my life. Wasn't going to. So now you have the sleeping spirit that's got you sleeping all day. Then you have the negative self-talk spirit that came back with the sleeping spirit. So now you're sleeping all day and you're able to justify sleeping all day because you're telling yourself that making that change didn't affect you one way towards building wealth or going in a new direction, because you didn't replace that negative habit with something positive. So you can't just stop doing something that our parents taught us that may be leading us or causing or creating poverty consciousness. You have to then replace that with something that's going to lead you to wealth. You can't just be empty, right? You can't just say that I'm going to stop watching TV and I'm going to start reading books. But the books you're reading are the same trash that's on the TV, just in written format. I stopped watching TV because I keep hearing everybody say I shouldn't watch TV. I stopped watching TV and I started reading more books. But the books you are reading are romance novels. The books you are reading, the magazines you're reading are the gossip magazines. So it's the same thing that was on TV, it's just in written form. So you have to start to not just stop doing the things that are leading you to poverty, but you have to start doing things that will lead you to wealth. Don't just stop doing things that are leading you to poverty. Start doing things that will lead you to wealth. That's how you break poverty consciousness. One of the oldest laws of physics says that two things can't occupy the same space at the same time. So by default, if I just start doing something positive, then that leaves me less time to do things that are negative. If I just start doing positive things, that leaves me less time to do negative things. And if I keep doing positive things long enough, eventually I create those as habits and I start doing positive things on autopilot. I start doing positive things on autopilot. And that's where the reprogramming comes in. I first have to question everything that I am. Every single thing. Because there's some things that are at the core of who I am that are leading me to poverty. And sometimes we don't want to break away from those things because those things were taught to us and put in us by some people that we love, admire, and respect. Some things that we are doing on autopilot were taught to us by people that we love, admire, and respect. And we don't want to get away from those things, even though those things are leading us to poverty. So you have to reevaluate, right? This is where true evolution comes in at. This is where true evolution comes in at. It says, hey, I know where I need to be. I'm honest enough to say where I am and I don't like it. So I'm going to consciously make a different decision that contradicts everything that I am. And I'm going to do that long enough till that becomes what I am. And then you start operating with a new operating system on autopilot. See, success isn't created overnight, but it is created through your daily habits. So it's not created overnight, but it's created daily. What are you doing? What are you cutting out every day and adding in new every day that's going to start leading you to wealth and diverting you from poverty? Right? One of the things that you can start doing is stop hating on people, man. And again, you don't just stop hating on people. I'm not going to say anything negative to people. No, you have to replace that with its opposite counterpart. Not only do you stop hating on people, but you start congratulating and lifting up and inspiring and motivating and telling everybody that, no, I'm not jealous that you're having success. No, I'm not jealous that you're building wealth. I'm extremely happy for you. I'm glad that you're pushing. Can you turn me on to some of the knowledge? Can you turn me on to some of your habits? Can you turn me on to some of the things that have allowed you to get there? Because remember, the measure with which you judge others, right? I mean, going back to scripture, a lot of people said, judge not. It says, I shouldn't judge. Well, that's a lie. Stop misquoting the scripture. It doesn't say I shouldn't judge. Man, if you don't judge, you find yourself in trouble. If you don't judge, you will find yourself in trouble. No, I do judge. I just understand that the measure by which I judge, I will be judged also. So what that means is I judge with fairness and say, hey, the lifestyle that I see you living on the surface is not congruent with where I'm trying to go. So you and me, we can't go together. If you don't judge, you will get yourself in some trouble. But understand the scripture fully says the measure by which you judge, you will also be judged by the same measure. So if I'm looking at what you are doing externally and you are going to hell in a handbasket, meaning you are living an extremely negative lifestyle, you and I ain't got nothing in common based on where I'm trying to go. So I can't hang out with you. All I can do is encourage you from afar that there are some things that you can do a little bit differently, my brother, my sister. But I can't share the same space with negativity. You know why? Because I've questioned everything about who I am. And I realized during that questioning, when I immerse myself in negativity constantly, that immersion in that negativity leads me to poverty. So once you start to question everything and you evaluating who you are at your core, you got to be honest and bold enough and have the courage to course correct. One of the problems that we have and why we continue to go down the road to poverty is because everybody else is. I'm going to say it again. One of the reasons that we have trouble and we continue to go down the road to poverty because everybody else is. And we don't have courage to turn around and go in a direction that's opposite from everybody else. We don't have the courage to look ahead and say, wait a minute, at the end of this road that everybody is going down, there is a cliff and everybody is running right off the cliff. I see this. I'm not no fool, man. I'm going to turn around. And even though everybody is coming towards me, I'm going in a different direction. That means because everybody is coming towards me, as I'm going in the opposite direction, I have to deal with all of them trying to encourage me to turn around. Brother, you're going the wrong way. Brother, you can't do that. Brother, you can't be a billionaire. Brother, don't set your sights up too high. Brother, don't do this. Brother, you're going the wrong way. Everybody is telling me I'm going the wrong way. I have to have the courage to continue down my path, and we just see who ends up where. But here's what we tend to do when we make that about face. And we have used our discernment and we know that the path that everybody else is going is leading them to negativity, leading them to death and destruction, leading them to poverty. And we don't want that. So when we turn around and start going the other way, we start making strides. But then what happens is we start to entertain conversations with other people who are going in the opposite direction. I'm not entertaining nothing with nobody that's not going in the same direction that I'm going in. Because what happens is they talk you off the ledge. They talk you back into turning around and going with them. I can't even entertain any conversations with somebody who has a poverty consciousness. Because without knowing, if I do that long enough, I will revert back to some of my old habits that will have me going, making decisions and taking actions that will lead me to poverty on autopilot. So once you have questioned everything about you and where your subconscious is getting these beliefs that are causing these thoughts that lead to these words that create these actions and habits in your life, do you have the courage to turn around about face and go against the crowd? See, I know everybody that I see, and I talk about the Black Wealth Movement, they're going to tell me, I talk about we're rebuilding Black Wall Street one family at a time. The first thing that come out of their mouth is, you know, they burned the Black Wall Street down. Did y'all hear me? I tell black people that we're rebuilding Black Wall Street one family at a time. First of all, there's too many of us that don't even know the history of Black Wall Street, one. But those who do know the history of Black Wall Street, the first thing that comes out of their mouths is they're just going to burn it down again. That is the first thing that comes out of their mouths. Man, you trying to build a Black Wall Street? You know they burned the first one down, right? Yes, and because I know that history, this one will be built with an army. You don't not build it. You say, yes, I realize what caused the fall of the first one, and I'm going to fortify the next one. That's it. Appreciate it, Robert. Yes, the first one failed, and that's okay. Kingdoms fall, nations fall, but then you rebuild. But you rebuild with the knowledge of the history of why the first one failed. And you fortify the next one. And who's to say it won't fall? That won't stop me from building it. I promise. That won't stop me from building it. So, in order for you to break the poverty consciousness, the poverty mindset, you might have to go against some of the very people that you know, love, and respect and admire, and do your own thing, blaze your own trail. I put a meme up there yesterday, and I talked about when it comes to the movement that we're putting together, the Black Wealth Movement, I'm not looking for people who want to run. I'm looking for people who are already running. See, I can be waiting all day for those who are looking at us build this thing and say, man, I want to do that. I want to do that. And I'm waiting on them. No. I'm not looking for people who want to run, who aspire to run, who aspire to be free. I'm looking for those who are already running. So I say, hey, you already running, man. Hey, let's run this way. Let's run together. I jokingly said on yesterday's show or the day before that the first thing I do when people join the Black Wealth Movement is I strip their shirt off and I look at their back and I'm looking for lash marks. That tells me you've already been running, right? You've already tried to escape the plantation. You got caught a couple times and you had to take some lashes. Those are the people that I'm looking for. Those people with that mentality. Those are the people with that mentality. People who are already running, right? Really quickly, how many of you guys are familiar with the definition of the word drapetomania? I talk about it on the show all the time, so some of my regulars are familiar with drapetomania, right? Drapetomania is the psychological disorder that they gave to black people who kept trying to escape slavery. Look it up. It used to be in the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for psychologists and psychiatrists to diagnose people with mental illnesses. So to not want to be a slave meant that you were mentally ill. If you ran away from the plantation more than 2 times, they said this dude got drapetomania. For some reason, he just hates being a slave. That would be me. That would be me. I am a drapetomaniac. That means I suffer intensely from the mental illness called drapetomania, meaning that I had an extreme disdain of being enslaved. Drapetomania. Look it up. Look it up. Tripped me out when I learned that. So now, as I'm building the Black Wealth Movement, I'm looking for other drapetomaniacs. How many drapetomaniacs do we have in the house today? It just goes against everything that you love to be enslaved by another. If you suffer from drapetomania, then I want you in the Black Wealth Movement. Rashad, Mr. Black Wall Street. Brother, I want to get you in the Black Wealth Movement. If you suffer from drapetomania, I want you in the Black Wealth Movement. I'm looking for drapetomaniacs right now. And I promise you this, If you hang around me too long and you don't have drapetomania, drapetomania is contagious. Drapetomania is contagious. You can catch drapetomania from me. If you hang around me too long, you will develop a strong disdain for being enslaved, and you too will want to be free. So I'm looking for drapetomaniacs that want to run, that are already running. I'm looking for drapetomaniacs that are already running. Right? If you, it goes back to that same thing that Harriet Tubman said. I could have saved a lot more people if only they knew they were slaves in the first place. So I don't have time. I'm like Harriet. I don't have time to convince you that you're enslaved. When I pull up on the plantation, I'm looking for that small little huddle of people who are passing notes, and they are got a secret society going on because they're always planning. That's the little group that I'm looking for. And those are the ones that I'm going to bust out with the Black Wealth Movement and what we're teaching you how to build wealth. So I know we're a little bit over our time. We're talking about questioning everything that you are so that you can reprogram yourself so that you can get out of poverty consciousness and transition into wealth consciousness, abundance consciousness, prosperity consciousness. It is a way of life. It is a way that you think. It is a way that you hold. It's a modus operandi, right? What is your MO? My MO is wealth consciousness. I only think and see and do a certain thing, and those things will only lead me to wealth as long as I continue to do them and put them into practice long term. So if I got any fellow drapetomaniacs that want to join the Black Wealth Movement, text Black Wealth Movement to 314-874-6887, or you can just inbox me what is the Black Wealth Movement all about, and I will get you some information to where you can learn what the Black Wealth Movement is all about. Devon, what's going on, brother? And let you know what we're doing, what we're teaching. And if you see an opportunity for yourself, I'd be willing to pay it forward for anybody who wants to join, cover your first month subscription. It is a $35 monthly subscription to be a part of this network. But you get your own financial education franchise. You learn how to minimize taxes, eliminate debt, free up your credit, and invest. All things that Black people need to know how to do if we're going to rebuild our communities. So we are rebuilding the Black community and Black Wall Street, one Black family at a time, one Black church at a time. If you know churches and pastors that need a financial education ministry in their church, they just don't know what to teach or how to teach it, we can come in and help them and give them a wealth building game plan that can increase the take home pay for their congregation. The church or nonprofit organization can generate wealth and generate revenue for their own programs and not have to be worried about handouts. We got you. BlackWealthMovement2017.com, or get with the person who shared the stream with you. If somebody is talking about the Black Wealth Movement 2017, then this is what it's all about. So I'm H. Cortez, the one and only financial health mentor to the Black community. Until I talk to you guys next time, I want you to get your money up because you absolutely can do it. Peace out, people.